can hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Great. So, thank you again. Pecus intends to investigate in a diachronic and multidisciplinary perspective the dynamic relationships between environment, intangible heritage, and material culture that have been developed and maintained through transhumant pastoralism. The project seeks to shed light on the origins of transhumance in central and southern Italy, on the factors that may have contributed to the emergence of transhumance in this area, on the longer-term effects triggered by transhumant pastoralism in terms of biocultural diversity and socio-ecological resilience, and on the mechanisms that have caused or threatened to interrupt these effects. Pecus promotes the valorization of the Italian sheep tracks network, also through the constant collaboration with the local superintendencies, with the aim of representing a resource for the economic, cultural, and tourist development of the areas crossed by ship tracks, and an opportunity to outline eco-sustainable subsistence strategies through the redefinition of traditional life systems. A strong point is the focus on the local communities. Just a second, sorry. Perception of the landscape, with in particular the transhumant breeders still active in the research areas. Our project as an intercultural hub uses tools, techniques, and strategies from different disciplines, as archaeology, cultural anthropology, geographic information systems, architecture, and environmental sciences. Pecus was defined in 2017, but the team has been active since 2013 in the field of ethnoarchaeology. Research activities have been conducted along one of the minor pastoral routes that connected southern Abruzzo with the Pescasero di Candela and Castel di Sangro Lucera ship tracks towards Molise. Pecus is supported by 3 territorial superintendencies: the Central Institute for Intangible Heritage of our Ministry of Culture, La Sapienza University of Rome, and other relevant organizations, as you can see. The major and minor ship tracks, with their development of more than 3,000 kilometers, formed a dense network of interconnections that had been active in central southern Italy, at least since protohistoric times. Although by the end of the 90s, about 50% of the routes were already compromised, in the inland mountain and foothill areas, they retain part of their integrity, forming a complex of high material and immaterial value, in which landscape, ecological, historical, archaeological, ethnographic, and socio-economic aspects intersect and overlap. A system of interrelated context, certainly characterized by multiple potentials in terms of protection, planning, and valorization. Part of the recent sheep track network corresponds to the Calles Publiche of the Roman time, in some cases overlapping with routes that had been active for millennia, as evidenced by conspicuous archaeological evidence, and were part of a trans-European system extending from the Iberian Peninsula to the Carpathians, as you all know. A network of ecological corridors in which several geomorphological, biological, and cultural evolutionary dynamics interacted over very long. Okay. So helping to shape the surrounding environment and influencing the human and animal communities that depended on them. The function of transhumance as a vector of context and cultural transmission is clear in this broad geographical and chronological span. In Italy, sheep tracks are protected by current legislation. The activities of the Minister of Culture and the superintendents for the provinces of L'Aquila and Teramo, where I work as an official, aim at the recognition of drawways as elements of the archaeological landscape and national ethno-anthropological heritage. The great horizontal transhumance established by Alfonso I of Aragon on the model of the Spanish Mesta, and in continuing with what was already happening in the Norman and Angevin periods, moved animals over distances of more than 200 kilometers along main north-south axis known as Tratturi Regi, which were 111 meters wide. The Tratturi Regi connected to each other by transversal minor routes were marked on the territory by boundary stones, dry stone walls and or hedges, and by the presence of specific architectural structures as sheep pens, farms, resting places known as poste and fountains. The official map of the Tratturi that you can see in this slide, defined in 1959 by the Commissario per la Reintegra dei Tratturi di Foggia, the most recent historical document to be considered in terms of knowledge, protection and valorization records, 14 ship tracks, 71 minor ship tracks, 13 connections and 9 resting places, distributed over an area of approximately to 21,000 hectares between L'Aquila and Matera in Basilicata. The 5 main north-south routes, the so-called Tratturi Regi, were known as L'Aquila Foggia or Tratturo Magno, Centurelle Montesecco, Celano Foggia, Pescasseroli Candela, and Castel di Sangro Lucera. The central southern Apennine area crossed by the ship track network, the 4, represents a complex landscape palimpsest composed of extremely varied geomorphological, geographical, historical, archaeological, and sociocultural specificities interconnected and made vital by the road system itself. Pecus analyzes the Pescasseroli Candela ship track and its related evidence, such as the minor ship tracks. We were saying that with its 221 kilometers, it is the second longest and the westernmost of the Tratturi Regi. It begins in Pescasseroli, and after crossing 4 regions, Abruzzo, Molise, Campania, and Apulia, mostly along the watershed separating the Tyrrhenian and Adriatic belts, it stops at the foot of the Daunian Preapennines. Any problem? Yes.
Could you please slow a little bit your speech, because it's difficult to translate it to the people?
Okay, definitely, yes.
Only a little bit.
No, it's better for me.
Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying that it runs along inland areas such as the Abruzzo, Lazio, and Molise National Park, less damaged by interfering infrastructures. Our research promotes the valorization of the whole Italian ship track network, implementing proposals to safeguard and valorizing the material and immaterial heritage linked to transhumance. The photographs were taken in Sepinum, a Roman city in Molise, built on the ancient route then overlapped by the Pescasseroli Candela ship track, during a transhumance revocation event organized by the University of Molise in September 2018. The work was structured into nuclei: research and field activities, and dissemination, valorization, and safeguarding. The availability of some breeding families in Abruzzo and Apulia offer the chance to conduct scientific investigations in several contexts of considerable historical and environmental relevance, closely linked to transhumance and located in the vicinity of the Tratturo Pescasseroli Candela, with a plan to expand our sample sites. So we have the sheep pens of Pantano at the Godi Pass, 3 farms in the Apulian Tavoliere, and the forest in the vicinity of Pescasseroli, which is in the south of Abruzzo, an important example of the Italian silvopastoral landscape. Pecus, supported by adhering to it, the Italian transnational project submitted to UNESCO, which resulted in the inclusion of transhumance in 2019 in the list of intangible cultural heritage. In 2020, Pecus was included in a network supporting a Year C advanced project presented by La Sapienza, University of Rome, and dedicated to the analysis of the drawways network in central southern Italy. The experience gained in the last years has led to the submission of an application within the Marie Curie Actions for 2022 dedicated to promoting an innovative transdisciplinary approach to understanding how mobile pastoralism and its roots shaped the character of Mediterranean landscape. If successful, The research will also be conducted in collaboration with Dottoressa Ariadna Nieto and the Prehistoric Research Group of the University of Lleida. Research activities took the team between 2013 and 2019 in Abruzzo and Apulia. In Abruzzo, well, here the field camps was conducted between 2013 and 2016, and also in 2021. In the mountain district marked by the Tasso Sagittarius River in the province of L'Aquila, we analyzed a pastoral route locally known as Via Salara, reconstructed for about 20 kilometers, that connected the Pelligna Valley with the Sangro River Valley and the Pescasseroli Candela shipwreck through the Godi Pass. The track going up to the north towards the Pelligna Valley met probably the east-west road known in Roman times as Claudia Valeria, which connected Rome with the Adriatic coast, reaching the system of roads that from the Sabine area moved down towards present Molise. The route is often documented by passages cut into the rock, where the calcareous bedrock emerges, by containment dry stone walls, by ancient evidence as a still visible Roman edicule, and by the presence of sheep pens as the complex at the Godi Pass. Well, from the Godi Pass, the road descended south towards the present town of Villetta Barrea and the river Sangro, which was the ancient border with the Sannio. Beyond the Costa Pantano sheep pens, whose name documents perhaps an ancient resting place, we cannot exclude that the carved stone, probably boundary or milestone of a historical age, located about 300 meters farther south, close to the present state road, marked the path. Anyway, the track, in use until the 19th century, was part of the local system of roads that later worked as connections between three of the major ship tracks referable to the Aragonese age: L'Aquila Foggia, Pescasseroli Candela, and Castel di Sangro Lucera. From north to south along the Via Salara, three sample areas have been intensely surveyed: I Giardini, Collangelo, Giovanna, and Godi Pass. Our multidisciplinary approach has offered the opportunity to delineate diachronically the settlement in the three areas between the end of the Bronze Age and the Modern Age. 14 sites dated between the final Bronze Age and late antiquity have been identified along the track. Let's start with Godi Pass, an ample upland fluvial plain facing the Sangro Valley towards the south and the Sagittarius Giovanna Valley towards the north. Still today an area of summer pasture for the flocks of the Graziani family. We documented here 45 spot sites, ranging from mid-upper Paleolithic up to the medieval phases, mainly located on the sides of the mountain plain, along which also the ancient roads pass. The central zone is in fact humid to the presence of a stream and resurgence areas. Surveys here revealed traces of a seasonal settlement, probably related to pastoral activities and dated between the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age, 11th, 10th century BC. Well, as you could see, also the materials referable to the Republican and Imperial Age and to the Middle Age are also remarkable. Giovanna. Here, our surveys have revealed materials referable only to the Middle Ages, among which some relevant ceramic fragments of archaic Maiolica dated to the 13th and 14th century. So I was saying that the castrum is located on the top of a hill in a dominant position over the valley of the Giovanna stream, and the access roads are still in use today. At the footstep of the hill, approximately 400 meters northward, there are still visible traces, presumably the village, the local viability, and structures related to the cult. Then we have I Giardini, which is an open, fertile area located along the southern slope of a hill called Colle di Caccialepre, exploited until the middle of the last century to grow cereals and pulses on artificial terraces. Today, the area is used as a pasture for sheep and horses. Between 2013 and 16, surveys and excavation campaigns interested this area, probably permanently used since the Iron Age, and defined by relevant funerary and settlement evidences referable to the Republican phase and late antiquity. We documented also structural evidence related to recent agropastoral activities. The fieldwork was based on archival, photographic, and historical documentation and on the testimony of local memory bearers. Well, over the years, we have conducted experimental activities, such as the one you see here, which is sharing with flint and obsidian tools at the sheep pens at the Godi Pass, which were also analyzed from an ethnoarchaeological point of view. We have documented the movement of the Graziani family's flocks from Apulia to the Godi Pass and the production of sheep's milk cheese as part of research into the use of salt. And last but not least, I was saying that we conducted surveys to identify the milestones delimiting the Pescasseroli Candela ship track on the border between Abruzzo and Molise. So that was for Abruzzo. In Apulia, Pecus has been active since 2018 between the Apulian Tavoliere and the Downing Preapennines. We have documented the transhumance activities conducted by the Carrino family along the Foggia Camporeale ship track between Lucera and Lussara di Puglia and the province of Foggia. Pecus also aims to create connections between its research area, its network of contacts, as farmers, local communities and supporters, and other researchers working in a scientific field. Under the direction of the Superintendenza for the provinces of Barletta, Andria, Triana, and Foggia, we conducted documentation, survey, and excavation activities at the Masseria Graziani, again in Cerignola. And the researchers led to the identification of a settlement site referable to the ancient Neolithic phases, partially intercepted by the construction of modern buildings and of a military airport during the Second World War. Well, our goals for the future, as you can see, for sure, the GIS reconstruction on cadastral basis of the ship track, for sure a third survey and excavation campaign at the Masseria su Giro Graziani, a site-specific survey between Abruzzo and Molise on the instructions of the local superintendencies, and this is an invitation to all of you, participation in the International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralists in 2026. And these are some, let's say, issues for all of us. For sure, multidisciplinary approach to pastoral path scientific research, an open dialogue with local communities and farmers, as indicated by the FARO Convention on the Value of Cultural Heritage for Society, open and shared transnational dialogue to define a protocol for the valorization of the European ship tracks network, and, well, this would be a miracle, open access GIS diachronic reconstruction of the European network of drawways. And to conclude, finally, for all of you, thank you for your patience, some questions. When did the network of routes, later defined as the ship track network, start to be activated? What is the role of ship tracks in the development of the historical landscape in the Mediterranean area? And what is the environmental effect of the use and recent abandonment of the ship tracks? Well, thank you very much, really, again, for your attention.